Hello, I'm Andrew Gillihan, and despite their current popularity, I believe musicals will stay with us forever. With the vast amount of films that come out each year, we as moviegoers pay witness to a moderate variety of different themes and archetypes. However, one genre that has been mostly absent from Hollywood for a long time is the film musical. What once was a very prominent mainstay within the golden age of the studio system has now gone the way of the Western, and almost nearly disappeared from our cultural awareness. But that doesn't mean it's gone entirely. Musicals have taken a lot of hits over the years, and they have still remained standing. Now, as a former theater geek in high school, I fully understand the stigma musicals have with most people today. But it wasn't always this way. Back in the late 1950s, MGM's musicals held a great showing in the box office. Audiences couldn't get enough of stars like Gene Kelly, Judy Garland, and Fred Astaire. It was such a good time that two musicals, An American in Paris and Gigi, both took home Best Picture in their own respective years. The business was so good that the whole film industry shelled out dozens of musicals each year. There was a total of 35 musicals in the year 1953 alone. So that leaves the question, what happened? Well, let's just ask ourselves, what is the driving force for most studios today to make movies?
Money. Money makes the world go around, the world go around, the world go around.
Although musicals were at the highest peak in the 1950s, it also happened to be at the same time that the studio system began its ultimate collapse. Suddenly, the federal government was forcing groups like MGM to sell off their theater chains and to fire a majority of their employees. Due to this, the idea of making a cavalcade of musicals each year was too big of a risk. With that, over the next several decades, the amount of musicals drastically diminished, along with public interest gradually following behind. Every so often, a new musical like Sound of Music, Grease, or Fame might come along and get an audience's foot tapping. However, with these films, studios were still playing it safe. Unlike in the golden age where MGM would create original musicals just for the screen, these new shows would be direct adaptations from the stage, meaning that studios would only invest in making a picture they knew already had general success with the public. It's the similar tentpole mindset that is implemented in Hollywood films today. But wait, it couldn't only be about the money. I mean, musicals for the most part were pretty profitable. Why else would the genre slip away? Well, I hate to admit it, but the fact is musicals got stale. People quite literally got tired of the same song and dance. Musicals had run into the dreaded pitfall of being repetitive. Although beloved, how many times can one watch Judy Garland and Gene Kelly sing and dance with one another to a crowd? All of this combined with the introduction of television to the masses, which had hurt the entire film industry as a whole. So the genre was beaten down, but don't be mistaken, it still had life, and was fully ready to keep fighting. In fact, 4 more musicals within the 1960s were able to take home Best Picture awards, including West Side Story and Oliver. However, despite this, the popularity and production of musicals continued to slowly decline throughout the 70s and early 80s. It wasn't until The Little Mermaid came out in 1989 did a new intrigue in animated musicals come about. Disney attempted to cash in on this renewed interest, making many more of their now classic films throughout the 90s and early 2000s. But it still wasn't enough. Just like before, the animated musical had its brief renaissance before they too became overdone. But just as I said before, there's still hope. Hollywood hasn't completely given up on musicals. In fact, in recent years, there have been small efforts to revive the musical genre, just like the Disney company attempted to. Some of these films went on to become big box office smashes. However, I will admit that the reason these newer films are most likely successful is because they are far in between nowadays. What once was a regular affair to have more than 10 musicals in a year has now turned to one or two, if any. Only time will tell if we shall ever get a true revival, but I believe that as long as there are those who still find joy in the singing, the dancing, and the laughter they bring, musicals will always find a way of staying alive.